So I want to share something. You have mentioned this phrase to not only me, but to many people. Sometimes people say, "Who do you think you are?"
Yeah.
And you have said to me once before, "I am an emissary of all that is."
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I am very clear, and I can prove that everyone is the same thing that I have clarity on, but everyone may not agree.
That's okay. We don't need people's agreement for this conversation. We're just having dialogue.
The distance between you and I and these two chairs is actually an illusion. We're connected energetically. And not only are we connected, but everything in the entire universe is connected energetically and can be traced back to a one finite point. And that means that we're all part of the same energetic thing. And we're linked through quantum entanglement. We're linked through physics. We're linked through the quantum realm and quantum energies. And that everything is linked. And so if everything is linked, then we are all one.
First, let's unpack exactly what a cargo cult is. A cargo cult is an indigenous millenarian belief system. They worship a higher technological or spiritual power. This specific cargo cult in Melanesia is a prime example of this. During World War II, vast amounts of military equipment was airdropped to their island. They had never seen such advanced manufacturing and technology. You could see that they have rifles with bayonets on top, as they perform some sort of ritual in hopes that the gods will return. These indigenous peoples unwittingly deified our US military. They made these impressive replications out of straw based on what they'd seen. Human beings have a tendency to deify anything they deem more technologically or spiritually advanced than them.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. We are happy to have you today. I am LaOta of the Sun. This is Tarvars of the Sun. And we are going to be discussing the topic of stepping into our own Godhood, the divinity that we are. And we have a lot to unpack here because humanity has a long history of stepping in or stepping out of that situation. So we're going to begin by asking Tarvars to call for the truth.
Yes, most certainly.
May you join us.
And we encourage you, chime in into this frequency. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And now that we are in the truth, talking about Godhood. So this feels a little controversial.
Yes.
Using just the word God, hood, this idea. So I feel like we require laying some foundation. And there's so many different places that I would like us to go, but what are we talking about in terms of Godhood or even our divinity and the source? Can we lay some foundation on what are we even referring to? Because people's terminology and understandings are vastly different.
It's true. I think for our conversation today, if we will look at the exaltation of what a human can be,
okay,
and what our goals and aspirations are, and how far can we go? Is there a ceiling? You know, that could be these levels of that understanding. So don't get caught up with the word, but understand the word is really speaking of our greater expansion in all directions, vertically, horizontally, perpendicular. Like, how far can we go before we hit a glass ceiling or a stone ceiling? Or do we go through the window from the skylight?
Yeah. Yes.
So the idea of the long history of humanity as we have come out of the time that the yuga we have just come out of 25,000 years of darkness. Now we're in the 391st year of coming out of that, moving into the light. These are calculatable cycles that exist in our universe, and they have been sustained through ancient texts and ancient writings. So we're going to use that as our basis, that we can see that things have been worse before and that there's an opportunity for things to deconstruct where we are and something new to come out of that. However, are we ready to bring forth our ability to respond to the new experience, the new epoch, the new world order, the things that we think are going to happen, the ascension, the rising up to a new level? Can we respond to that? Or do we think that, as someone has told me on another podcast, someone told me once, well, I don't need to do anything because I already heard it's going to happen. So I'm already in, whatever I'm doing is fine because somebody's going to come save me, and I'm going to ascend. I'm going to go up in the rapture. So this is really about what is our responsibility and how do we know that? How do we feel the truth of that? How do we identify that? And what have we seen historically that shows us what does not work? So there's that.
There's a lot that could be said.
Yes.
So we have this foundation of
Yes.
the potentiality of human.
Yes.
Where we can go based off of who and what we are. Like, what are we?
Yes.
What even are we? Because most people, we walk around not knowing who and what we are, and then the relationship with the greater reality that we exist in. Because again, we live in these very limited systems. We have those ceilings you speak of, the skylight or the cement roof, the boxy, and it distorts how we think about ourselves and, again, our relationship with all things.
It really depends on how the perspective from which we're talking about. We are so many multidimensional aspects of creation ourselves. So if I'm talking to my grandchildren, I am their great mother. If I'm talking to someone with a problem who needs help, I can say, I have lived through that. I'm the one who can tell you what my experience was. Then you may take that and it may assist you. I could say for myself that I have learned against all odds and against all cultivation that I am enough. I understand myself to be womb man and human. So I can see that there are many perspectives from which we can view ourselves depending on what is needed. And we have been cultivated out of most of those. Mostly we think in terms of a question mark. We think of ourselves like, well, I don't know. Or maybe I see myself as an American. Or maybe I see myself as a Black person. Maybe I perceive I'm part of a group of indigenous who operate on this planet. There's so many ways to see it, all of which are valid.
But wait, there's more, isn't it? Like, because I'm over here like, I don't know if we've hit gold yet. I'm finding flakes, but like I'm trying to ting. So what more is it beneath all of these labels these identifiers that we have overlaid?
These are the levels of matriculation of our educational process. These are like, I can be mother and grandmother at a certain level of my understanding. I can be human at a level of my understanding as I relate with other humans. I can be one of the two polarities of creation. I can be womb man.
So I want to share something. You have mentioned this phrase to not only me, but to many people. Sometimes people say, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And you have said to me once before, I'm an emissary of all that is.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I am very clear, and I can prove that everyone is the same thing that I have clarity on, but everyone may not agree.
That's okay. We don't need people's agreement for this conversation. We're just having dialogue.
So the understanding is that we live in a closed system. So everything that is in the system is made from the mother. All of the elements on the periodic table are what we are composed of. The water in the ocean is the same level of saline solution in our bodies. Everything is a replication or a holographic understanding or a reflection of everything that we see around us. Everything in nature, whether it's land, whether it's water, whether it's sun, whether it's air, we have the air. We are the land. We have the water. We are the sun. We even have a solar plexus.
Yes.
We have a sun within us. So I recognize and see those aspects and see that that is part of creation, and I am a child of creation.
So everything out there is in you?
Not only is everything out there in me, I have been learning how it is that I can ask for the rest of me to be in service to me. So I can ask the forests of me. I can ask the sands, the millions and billions and trillions of aspects of sand to be of service to me, because I understand that I am sand. I am every drop of water. So this understanding of we are all that is has been relentlessly and maliciously removed from humanity. So now when you ask people something, they think they're not enough. Well, I'm not enough to go against something that's wrong that's being done to me. I'm not enough as a woman to talk to a man. I'm not enough as a child to talk to an adult. I'm not enough as a student to talk to the teacher. And it goes on and on and on and on until we look at the supreme deity in the world that we currently live in the third dimension, which is the corporation. You know, the anti-life representative, the corporation that we all want to work for. Everybody wants to get the big check from the corporation. Yes.
Oh, holy corporation being worshipped.
Yes, absolutely.
Please
It's
continue.
no different than, do you know what a cargo cult is?
A cargo cult.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard that phrase.
And so after World War II, and my father was actually in the South Pacific where this took place, there were many islands in the South Pacific that were tiny little islands inhabited by people that during the war, they were exposed to humans where they had been isolated. And often a plane would crash or land, and they thought it was a gift from the gods. So they would worship, examine everything, look at everything, see, attribute levels of divinity to it, and then build replicas of like airplanes. And then they would pray at the replicas of the airplanes. They're called cargo cults.
So we may need another podcast, because where my mind is going in terms of humanity's ancient history, off-world intelligences, yes, I said it, that have, what you're saying, we have historical reference points of people doing this throughout time.
Yes.
However, interesting. I still want to let the people know that's tuning in. We're going to get to where we're going, but laying this foundation of essentially like who and what we are. So
we're still talking about who we are. Those are humans. What are they doing? Who are we? Why are we doing that? Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Why do we think technology? Because they had a vehicle that landed on an island where we had nobody we knew, nobody our grandparents knew, nobody there was never a story about it. So that must be something we don't know, must be greater than us. That's part of who we are as humans, until we mature into realizing, oh, that's us in a more developed, multidimensional experience.
So I want to speak on what I'm gaining from what you're saying. So what I'm getting is that you see yourself as a whole, that like I'm you, the space is you, the trees. Watch that last episode. The trees was moving, y'all. The trees were moving when she mentioned the trees, and all the other things that you referenced. So then this idea, if you've had to work your way there, because we live in a reality that has been fragmented, where we only see ourselves as a piece that's separate from everything. And if it's something that looks greater, or, there's glamour, we praise it. We essentially give our power to it, is what I'm gaining. So what's up with that? Like what is going on with this idea of this giving of to something else? If this is the case, that we are that thing, everything is us, oneness, interconnectedness, where does it come in for where we give up our power to the thing that is us?
This is us in our infancy. You know, humanity here on Earth is at the stage of development. Let's say this, that we are at the stage of development that we are at. Our behavior shows where we are at.
Ooh, we're
Let's say it like
terrible
that.
twos.
Yes.
Climbing on everything, pulling everything down.
And so when we were in the crib and we were looking up and somebody put a mobile and the mobile's moving, we were like, whoa, look at that mobile move. I just love that mobile, Mom. Don't take the mobile down. Like I want to see the mobile every night. I want it to light up. This is not an indictment against humanity. This is stages of matriculation of our educational process.
This makes sense.
So when we hear the Greeks talk about the Greek gods and how jealous and how mean-spirited and how they represented hell and they represented, they were having affairs and having children with each other and all of that, that's another stage of wilding out development. So it's another stage of humanity who is no longer a cargo cult. Now they got their Greek gods up on the Mount Olympus.
No different from them.
No different.
Debauchery,
yes,
rascal behavior.
The same behavior that humanity is using, they're learning it from the gods. The gods are being jealous. They're feeding people to the lions. They're, doing a whole variety of things. So this is all a matriculation process. I look at it this way because I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I can see that we should not hold ourselves to the level of our infancy and only think of ourselves that way. Like we are not responsible as we are developing and growing for the more mature levels that require responsibility. We're only responsible for what we're doing at whatever level of our matriculation. So these things exist in our world today, and we can see our developmental experience with Mother Earth and with the greater family of the larger solar system and galactic and universal family, that there are things that come into our sphere that we may not understand in our infancy. And that we may mistakenly think is greater because we don't understand that all creation is creation.
So, question for you.
I want to say this first. I want to say all life is life. All life is conscious. And all life is life. Even if it's an ant, if it's life, it's part of creation.
I 100% agree.
And to a giant, we're the ant.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. It's like...
Yes. This is making me think about the embodiment of being in the higher dimensions, do no harm. Where you recognize that everything is you. From the ant to the caterpillar. Oh, let me get you out the way because... Especially if there's like a cognitive awareness of it versus a mindless like, let me kill you. Let me just end you. And that has its own type of energy, which we're not going to go there. But I wanted to bring up, you mentioned the Greek gods. So the examples that you gave were behaviors that are very similar to what is going on in people's households today. God sleeping with other people, having babies everywhere across the land. So, but we use this term God, but like, was Zeus, when I hear that versus what you said about this realization of your interconnectedness with reality, how the Greeks referred to Zeus and Apollo and Aphrodite, everyone, it seems very limited. It doesn't seem like it's more of like a all encapsulating. It more so seems like beings who are at a different stage of development, if we're going to look at it like that.
The reality is that everything is based on something, and their interpretation of what they saw reflected what we see in humanity today. But we are moving into a higher opportunity through universal and galactic energies that are entering into the time period that we are in now. The opportunity for us to do what has not been in our collective human memory exists now. So it's not so much that something's wrong with what Zeus did, it's that we may not have been mature enough to understand how to handle that at that time. It's not so much that there's so much right or wrong to it. It's more like, is there a system that supports whatever happens? It's truly, we are designed in a way, and we can see this if we look around, we're designed in a way to expand. And we're designed in a way to grow. And sometimes we outgrow experiences. However, that doesn't relieve us of our responsibility of the experience if it has tangential effects.
Be-Bration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles, intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality.
So I have a question now. So to kind of shift gears with responsibility, and for some reason we're using the Greeks as a reference, but I feel that any other system of worship of a deity or being outside of self can be placed in that slot. So use your imagination. We're not going to go there. So people would pray to the gods to make certain things happen. And I can see there is still some of that today, but in a new iteration. You mentioned, for example, corporations, and there's other beings, and even off-world intelligences, people in the spiritual community, they're like, we want the aliens to save us, or we want Jesus to save us, or Trump to save us, corporate America. And this is this placing of the responsibility and the power on someone, something outside of us. Can you speak a little bit to this? And
well, what really comes to mind, I think, is how humans right now in our day and time emulate what they think of as the Godhead of our world, which are the corporations. So since they see that corporations have international branding, then humans say, I want to be branded. I'm branded. Brand me. This is my brand. Is that your brand? We are emulating what we perceive as the power or the Godhead. And the real, it's not actually an issue. We are to be powerful. The reason people are wanting to learn manifestation, wealth, and power is that is our birthright. However, we live in a system that has severely limited the common man from the access or the understandings of what wealth really is. If you're healthy, that's wealth. If you're, you living in the forest, you're living in wealth. And whatever the currency of the coin of the realm is, if you can get what you need and more than and you have enough ideas to support having something else, that's manifestation. But because we live in an experience where everything is limited on purpose and by design, and that only certain people have access and other people are convinced that everyone has access. So there's an entire group of people on the planet who think everyone has access because I have wealth. I can see they all have access, but that's not actually the case.
Yes.
That's not how corporations work.
No. Or capitalism.
Or any of it.
Yeah.
That's
Any
not
of
how
the
any of
isms.
that
Yeah.
works. And so the idea that we are in our right place calling on power. We are in our right place calling on wealth. We are in our right place calling on whatever it is that we can imagine through our own creativity, and then we can use our own power to make happen. Where the hiccup comes in is using our own power to make it happen. Mostly, we want to use someone else's power to make it happen because we deeply don't believe that we have the power. Does that make sense to you?
That makes total sense. And as you said, that there are so many things that have been created, systems literally that have been put in place systematically for millennia to get humans to a point where we are in deeper and deeper and deeper levels of this type of parasitic relationship where we are giving up our power and authority for creation of our reality to someone or something outside of us, and then thinking that we can't do it in and of ourselves. And to me, I see where it's the codependency versus like an interdependency. So when I go back to what you were saying about I am an emissary of all that is. I'm one with all that is. It's flowing through me now. I feel the universal life energy moving through me. So we are alluding to this idea of interdependency, where you serve it, it serves you, you're working together, which I think that's what the new world needs. So how do we rectify this idea of we've given up all our responsibility? The common man has been tricked to believe that they're limited, that they can't do anything, especially in a world where those who have quote unquote power think that's not the case.
And the question is? The
question is, how do we rectify reclaiming responsibility over our creation of our reality?
It's so interesting, and it's multifaceted, because not only have we been cultivated, but our parents have been cultivated.
Yeah, it's deep.
So we have the living DNA of people who may not want to take responsibility. We have the living DNA of 6, 7, 8 generations of people who were willingly in agreement with being enslaved. So that is a living consciousness that exists within us. So recognizing that maybe granddaddy didn't have the presence of mind to be able to access, because of conditions and because of what happened and all of the things that all of our ancestors have gone through. So I need to cultivate my sovereignty, my understanding that not only may I produce and have everything, but I have to cultivate the mindset that I'm responsible, that if I depend on someone to bring me everything, I'm now a dependent. So there's no getting away from it. There's no getting away from, I want all of the things that happen, but I don't want to do any of the things. I just want to pay, $20 a month and everything. The water comes on, the electricity comes on, the gas comes on, and that sounds like a good deal until they decide to turn it off. And you don't have anything else in its place. So here we are at this great moment of opportunity. We're living in the deconstruction of the empire.
Yes.
Here's this opportunity for us to invent things where they can't kill us all if we invent how to run a car on water. We can't, all the things that have been suppressed, that have not been allowed to move forward, now may happen. So this is a glorious time to be incarnated on the earth plane as this explosion of creativity and divinity and godliness happens. The godliness has to do with your own individual circumstance. It's not that you're God over other people. You be God over you. You
Yes.
be God over your own sexual habits. Be God over your own drug habits. Be God over your own eating. Be God over your own clothing. That will make you God. That's sovereignty. And that's really the same word as godliness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is hitting deeply. This is getting to more of the ting, ting, ting. We're hitting goal here. Who and what we are. You often say, who's your daddy, right? Like, the creator, the source, who's your
Right.
mother. Like, and we are a byproduct of that, and there's many different ways
Right.
that has been alluded
Right.
to in different spiritual schools of thought. So this sounds like spiritual maturity. This sounds like we move and shift from the terrible twos, wreaking havoc in the household, to learning how to put things back where they belong, learning how to clean up behind ourselves, learning how to make sure we're not wasteful with things, learning to do for self, and in doing that, recognizing that everything is self. And it looks like everything in our reality is calling for us to grow up. You gave some examples on how such a beautiful time that we're in for this opportunity. And one of my perceptions regarding this is that we are being prompted to step into the responsibilities that we have given up so that we can be in the power. But it looks a little funky because, like you say, the condition is so deep. It goes back generations.
Yes.
Generations that we don't even have reference points for. So again, I love what you said about we're not looking to be a God over someone or something. Right. We're looking to be sovereign, free, and over self.
Yes.
So can you give some examples of how we can do this on, again, it's happening in our reality right here. And what we do here affects here.
Yes.
Right? So what are some ways that people can step into responsibility?
Our world is full of examples. I'll give you a few. All of us have felt jealousy and resentment from others. The reason we feel jealousy and resentment is someone thinks that they can't have what we have, or they feel covetous. They want your car, or they want your clothes, or they want your girlfriend, or whatever it is. This is an example of not feeling like you have the power to manifest that experience. So instead, you drop into an anti-life frequency where you're really essentially a hater.
Yeah.
Not only am I not happy that you have something, but I don't like you and I'm going to broadcast that. So this is one example of immaturity. This is what a child has a cookie and the other child can't have it, and they fall out on the floor and they're kicking and screaming and they're acting up because they haven't yet been taught that they can have a cookie if they ask for it. Maybe not that person's cookie.
Yes. This is such a perfect example. Please continue.
So that's one example that I can think of, and the response or the remedy for that is it's really, we need to begin with the children. So all of us who are awake to this idea have to first correct ourselves. And then we have to start, it's like walking through a house that's, somebody had a party. You walk through the house and everywhere you go, you pick up whatever's in your path. I've been to houses where people have been very lax in the way they take care of it. And you might pick up a towel, or you might pick up underwear, you might pick up clothing that they have tossed. So this is the situation we metaphorically find ourselves in. You have to correct each thing as you encounter it. So you can't let the child who's potty trained poop on the floor. If that's what is happening, you have to correct that when that happens. And then you have to correct how they're eating. And then you have to correct how they speak to one another. And then you have to correct, what do you do when you want something? And can you learn that, you may get yours in 2 minutes and another person got theirs 1 minute ago. So these are all the different things that we all are very familiar with, but we must deal with whatever is in front of us first. And so this applies to our behavior with Another great example is how humans have a lot of sex and kill a lot of babies. Or they have the babies and then they don't care about them or take care of them. And then that's not a good ingredient for making humans. So where is our responsibility in that? How do we take responsibility, even if we're not necessarily adhering to the traditional structures of religion? Those structures were in place to make for peace. We could create structures that allow us to support the results of our responsibilities.
There's so many wonderful things that you're saying, and the idea of how responsibility, it extends beyond self. It requires, like, the person walking through the space. Typically, people respond in such a way, I didn't do it, so I'm gonna wait for someone else to do it, and then you probably walk back through and it's still there because that person, but then you're probably rubbed the wrong way, and take the responsibility to address it as it comes.
And the growth is in, I am in this environment and those dirty dishes are there. The growth is, I'll wash the dishes. It doesn't matter who did it. I'm in this environment. Mm-hmm. I'm in here with this uncomfortable, unpleasant, unsanitary situation. So I'll just take charge of it because it's in front of me. So I'll do that.
Yes, but I was actually working my way to a point. You said something about the example of where children falling out because we want the cookie and we mad and jealous and envious and a hater that we didn't get the cookie, not knowing that we could ask for a cookie. And again, this makes me think about the mechanics. Like, you can call forth things into your reality. Yeah. You don't have to be a hater, but then we have to know that we can, and that there's a whole understanding for that. So maybe that could be something we can discuss at another time, because it's within the realm of manifestation. And you have spoken about how people don't quite understand manifestation. We think that we're pulling something from outside of us, but you have often shared that we're manifesting 24/7, conscious and unconscious. Our waking being is a walking, talking, living, vibrating manifestation.
It's funny to me because we were just talking about cargo cults. We have a cargo cult with items like stones that we think, oh, let me pray to the stone. Let me bring the stone home. Let the stone take care of my manifestation. Okay. When in fact, we are the diamond. We are the carbon that is the vibrating clarity that all stones are, and the stones are our ally. Not like we have to pray at the altar of the stone. So it's funny to me when we talk about manifestation, how current humanity views certain objects that are not greater than them, and they imbue all of their power into them. And then because of that misunderstanding, they cannot get back the right thing because they're not honoring who they are. So I'm asking this crystal to be God to me. And the crystal's like, I got stuff, but I don't have that. I mean, I got things for you, but...
Yeah. But like, that's the thing, the mechanics don't work that way.
Yes, it does.
We're giving all the responsibility to the crystal.
Yes. And then we charge the crystal with our lack of self. So now the crystal, because we're property clears, we know when we go into someone's house, we're looking at the crystals like, oh, these crystals all have to be clean because the person has charged them inappropriately with wanting them to be God for them. You know, where they've given over power to them that is inappropriate. The crystals already have power. The trees already have power. The sun already has power. The water already has power. And we should be in reverence to it.
It sounds like we got to wake up to our power and be in reverence to that.
And the food has power. All of these things are also birthed from Creator, as we are. So there's a misunderstanding of our relationship with our fellow creations.
Right.
You know, so that's where I mean, we can talk more about manifestation, but did we get to where you were?
I think so. Is this what you want, people? Is this what you want? You know, because today's 888.
Yeah, today is 888, and I'd like to mention that. So that ends up being a 24 in numerology. 888 reduces to a 24, which reduces to a 246, which is a wonderful thing. But the 8 is often misunderstood and our dimension as only meaning money and only meaning wealth. And it does mean all those things, but the wealth may be misunderstood because the 8 is infinity horizontally and an 8 vertically. And it really is all about how things never, ever stay the same. They're always changing, always moving, very much, as you mentioned earlier, like our morphic field. It's very much like the field of energy that we are in all the time, always moving. Everything has to move all the time. So the 888 means things may be moving all over the planet. Things may be happening in your house. They may be happening down the street. They may be happening in other countries all at once. And this may be a harbinger of that. So we hope that that's informative for you. And you have pulled a card for the call for the truth for today. And what was your question?
Okay, so the question was, what is the truth that we must see as it relates to taking responsibility for the creation of our reality?
Yes.
And our theme is belief. See and then wait, not wait and then see.
Yes. And so that's wonderful, because that looking out the window, hoping something will come down the road, that's that wait and see. That I see myself in this mountain paradise. I'm going to do the things until it manifests from my actions I'm taking and my thoughts, which are very powerful. That's a different thing than the, I'm just going to look out the window and hope something comes down the road.
Daydreaming and the responsibility of your reality placed in, we don't even know who, because it's just left open-ended.
When you say see, that is an action. That is a directive.
Yes.
That is like giving yourself, see what you want, decide what you want.
Yes.
The universe will back you up. But you must see it first, not, I'll see it when it gets here.
Oh, gosh. See, that's that limited reality, the materialist. I can only believe what I can see.
Yes.
But we got to go.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We would give you the greetings of Inlakesh Oneness and Veritas Truth with honor, respect, and gratitude, and hope to see you again. Thank you.